Hi guys, welcome back to Coffee Morning Laughter with your girl Sheila. We're back with another week of Black History. Yeah, it's still Black History Month. And this week we've got something different for you. We haven't got an author, but we've got a jack of all trades, I guess, in this area. And I'm going to go over to Michelle so she can introduce our special guest for this week.
Yeah, so hi guys. This week we actually have, I want to say international. Can we say international? Because you're not London based. Yeah, so I'm going to throw out international. We have Peter, who is a director, the owner, the creator of a space called Kidsimply, which is an organization that designs products which are sustainable and inclusive, and just for easy to use family belongings, can I say?
I think it's best if Peter just tells us a little bit about himself.
Over to you, Peter.
Because I mean, Michelle, don't ever do introduction for me at my wedding.
There's only one MC here, and it's clearly not me.
Yeah. Peter, welcome to Coffee Morning Laughter, and thank you so much for joining us in this month of Black History. I'm sure if you have seen what's been put out in the last weeks, but we've had 3 different authors that have spoken about their books empowering the Black community. And what we've really dwelled on, or the message we've tried to bring across, is that Black people are in many spaces that so that they can inspire. Yeah, I think the first one was Michelle, and she wrote a book about mental health and well-being and breaking the mold. The second one was Toyin. Toyin's book was Wonderfully Me. That was a child's book, and it's a child of color. Just affirmations, which is something that your company, Kidsimply, also has a hand in terms of affirmation for young children. And our last week's guest was Christiana. Again, hers was, help me out here, Michelle. Hers was about overcoming her.
It was a tea with the Queen, a tea party with the Queen.
Yeah, tea party with the Queen, and it was more about overcoming her own challenges and what other children might face that are younger. So this week we arrive in Germany, where you are. Yeah. Tell us about Kidsimply. I know you do a range of things, and the reason why we actually wanted you or needed you on this podcast, because you're a keen reader to your daughter.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. So
where did that come from? Where did that come from? Was your childhood filled with reading and, you know?
No, it's actually a complete 360. I'll thank you for having me. I've been following you guys for a while. Fantastic what you're doing. You're creating a platform that's a game changer. So, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been in Berlin, Germany for, I'd say, about 5 years now. I lived in the UK for way over 25 years, and I got bored of it.
There's not much to do in Canning Town.
But I decided I made the wrong decision and put the pin on Germany. No. So yes, my wife and I and my then 3-year-old daughter moved over to Germany, where we were relocated in Berlin. We've had the turmoil, ups and downs, as everyone has with COVID. And we, during COVID, set up an online store called Kidsimply. And this came, so Kidsimply, the online store that we came up with came as a concept of many factors. So within COVID, wherein everybody was in lockdown, stuck, we witnessed some horrendous stuff. So the first scene was the George Floyd. Reactions were differently taken, and our one was that we are living in a country where we are the minority, and it's obvious. And we're raising a child who is of color, and more importantly, not just a child, we're raising a daughter. So as well as being a girl of color, she's got so many challenges. As we've seen the Me Too movement, we've seen the George Floyd. It kind of opened up many questions. What part do we want to play in her life? And in that aspect, we were thinking, what can we do different? It was a reset button. So we thought, okay, let's think about creating this online platform where we can have something that promotes, empowers, and celebrates being uniquely different. I'm not going to say black because there's many variations of color. So being uniquely different.
I like that. I like that terminology. I think, Michelle, this is something you need to put in your vocabulary. Yeah.
This guy is so silly.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
so silly.
I feel like Michelle, the Lily Kays of this world. I mean, I could start using this word as well to describe
uniquely different.
Uniquely,
Yeah.
I really
We'll
like
save that for another. I like it. And like you said, Peter, you're right. It is about being inclusive, you know, because I recognize that as a black woman, you know, I've got Asian friends. They have difficulties. They're not my difficulties as a black woman, but they're still difficulties. And you know, they're not black. So as a person of color, it's good to, you know, like I said, recognize our differences. You know, we have similarities and differences.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's important to celebrate them rather than show them to people that these are challenges. Because I think the angle that we were looking about is let's celebrate being different. You know, my daughter has the biggest afro when the hair's washed, and I don't want it to get to the stage when she's old enough and people say, I don't like your hair. She cuts it off. So I wanted to celebrate everything about the detail of being that person of color, and celebrating was the aspect we came about. But an addition to it was that the market of inclusivity is saturated. There's a lot of people that are doing some very transformative and empowering things. So we had to think more than that, hence the term Kidsimply. The other aspect was around sustainability, that what you buy shouldn't cost the earth. That was our slogan quote. So in that aspect of it, in every product that we source that's not a book or so on, it's for family. So it could be, for example, your makeup removers that you can rewash and reuse again, your drinking bottles that are made from sugar cane. I'm gonna buy that makeup
remover.
Or indeed. So
I am so here for this sustainability, seriously, because Sheila mocked me when I tried to talk to her about.
I did not mock you.
You did mock me. I will find the WhatsApp.
I said to Shell, I said to you, go and do some more research about it, Greta, and come back so we can discuss it.
Those are the words. She called me Greta. She called me Greta Thunberg and told me to sit down, basically. That's what she told me.
But Peter, I want to come back to exactly, because obviously, you know, I'm very aware that we all grew up in London, yeah, and we're all similar ages here. So we could possibly say we might have faced the same challenges as we did maybe when we were younger. I can't really remember Black History Month. Sorry, question. Does Germany have a Black History Month, or is it?
It hasn't yet been fully acknowledged in a way that you would say it is in the States and in the UK. They, you know, us people of color obviously know of it, and we try to do as much to promote it through the actions that we do, but it's not as celebratory as you have over there.
Is it the same? Does it run alongside our calendar? Is it in October, or is it not even on the calendar?
But in a sense of it being recognized at the scale that you've got in the US and the UK, it's something that's
it is
some work.
What part of Africa are you from?
Who, me? Uganda.
Uganda. Okay, you're one of Sheila's cousins. Okay.
Big family.
There's a brother. He's actually a brother. Do you know what I've known Peter since? I've known Peter since we were like four.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing.
So we go way back here.
But do you know what? There's a very personal story I have with Sheila, and you know, every time she asks for something, she's actually the only person I give this time in the evening. Trust me.
I'm a lucky kid. I keep saying.
Yeah, we can go the whole story, but there's a very close connection we have, and her brother. I'm a very lucky kid. I am a very lucky kid. He's very transformative. His situation that happened to him and his lifestyle that he lived impacted me in a very good way. I could have ended up like everybody who's in East London, you know, in gangs or whatever. But I think what he created in that period he was there saved me from going astray. if
Shout out
that's
to
available.
Shama.
Yeah.
Big time.
So you said something about which is important to say. We all go through the same struggles, but differently. And there's another question you asked about why did I choose to read to my daughter?
Yeah.
And there's a pattern of all the people that you've had there that kind of is an issue within the Black community. We don't talk about the challenges around mental health, around education, empowerment. And the key one that most of us have to deal with is absentee fathers.
Okay.
And the impact it has on us, the traumatic impact that it has on us fathers who are trying to be a better role model, to learn where our mistakes are and what we can do differently. So for me, reading to my daughter is making me an active dad, in the sense that I'm present in her life. So that evening spent reading to her is being present, being able to share a moment where you and me and her can just use our imagination, play with it. But I'm playing because one of the things that I did here in Germany is I was fortunate enough to join 4 other fathers after George Floyd to create what was known as Black Dads Germany. And the concept around it was getting rid of the narrative about Black fathers, because if anybody types in Google Black fathers, all you see is absentee fathers, prison, so on and so on, negative connotation. And you speak to somebody else, they say, that guy's not going to be there that long, he's going to go away. And to some point, they do have a point, because I've grown up without a father, and the relationship I've had with him hasn't been great. But it's definitely opened my mind to understand how to be a father. Being a parent overall isn't the easiest thing. It challenges you nonstop. And for somebody who hasn't had a role model to look up to and say, Dad, what do I do in this scenario? You can see the traits of where some fathers just give up when it gets hard, when the child says, I prefer mum over you.
Yeah, because what? Because it's normally the mum, I'm being quite judgmental here, or like stereotypical with this. It's normally the mum that will do the reading or do all these routines at home. But I don't know what it's like. I know, Michelle, you're married to somebody who's what, should we say unique?
He's white, Sheila.
Yeah.
You idiot. This is why I want to punch her sometimes.
Yeah. You're married to, a white man. And I don't know if there's different, because men are men, we're all human, yeah. And I hate to place a distinction between us because of our colors. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be just because, a person is white or Asian or brown or black or whatever the color you might choose, that they do this better or they do this more. Do you know what I mean? From what you've said there, Peter, the fact that you're going onto Google and you're typing in the search of Black dads and that's what's coming up, that is horrible. And I mean, to hear that in Black History Month, come on, Black dads, let's make history, and change something here.
There's so many, it's so great to hear you say about Black Dads Germany. There is an organisation in England, Dope Black Dads, and I don't know if you've heard of them, Peter.
They're doing really great. Yeah,
they're doing amazing. I don't know why I follow them, because I'm not a dope Black Dad, but I just love the work that they're doing, number one. And number two, what you said about reading to your daughter, about you just being present. It's not even just that. The amount of learning that you are, that you're doing with her is absolutely amazing. I actually sent it to my best friend and I've asked her for the piece. Literally about a week or two ago, it came up. I read somewhere, it said, a child who is read to every day from, like, say, birth, near enough every day from birth to 5 years old, they have more words in they have up to 20,000 more words in their vocabulary than a child who is not continuously read to.
That's interesting. And I can see that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely 6. True. Because the imagination is made through reading, through going through different stories. Now, what I was going to ask Peter was, what kind of books do you read to your daughter?
It varies. It can be
What's her favourite book? What's her favourite book?
Yeah, it's anything that's got unicorns and fairies in it that will hit the note.
How
Actually, no, her new favorite book is, we've got a book called What, Why, and How. So it's like testing her mind, and she always picks it and picks me to read it. So in a sense, it can ask, what's bigger, the sun or the moon? And it gives you reasons why, but it's a closed capsule. So you have to remember the question, remember the answer, and then I open it, gives the answer, and then she, hates herself if she's got it wrong. But you're very right, Michelle, in the sense that she is really, that's the time where we're not pushing her. It's a comfortable environment. She's actually enjoying learning and reading. She'll look at the word and she'll try and say it herself. Sometimes she's trying to long out the sleep process.
Yeah, as they do.
Yeah, are you serious? You're picking the longest word to try and guess.
I think that's really good. Yeah. That's really, really good. I think what I've been what we're trying to do is, especially we've spoken about it for the last 3 weeks, is really having, this is Black History Month, and I keep saying Black. I know we said we'll use a different word uniquely, but I want to continue seeing ourselves in spaces. I mean, you mentioned something about, Black faces and white spaces. A lot of times when we were growing up, the authors that we had to reflect on or didn't reflect us, the authors that we were looking at in school didn't reflect who we were. We've made several jokes on this podcast about Biff, Kipper and Chip. They didn't look like us, yeah. I was never allowed to have a dog when I was a child. So I didn't have a Kipper in my house. Do you know what I mean? So what we're seeing more now of is a lot of Black authors that are coming up, or even authors that are married to, black men, Black women, representing that side of their child, and putting that out in the space and in the atmosphere. So when that child walks into school or is around other people, they're seeing themselves on that bookshelf, as opposed to it just being, a white counterpart, or somebody that doesn't look like them. And what we've been driving at and promoting this month was to have books that represent all the different shades that we are. Do you know what I mean?
I have that book. I have Love Your Body. So there's a illustrator who I'm sure you've heard of, Vishante Harrison, American illustrator. She's a Black American illustrator. Her books are incredible. They portray the different shades of Black and white and so on. So she's got a series, A Boy Like You, A Girl Like You, Love Your Body, and it's about understanding the different shapes, the different colors, the different complexions, the deformities of humanity. And she's a Black person, definitely transforming the aspect of authors and so on, because she's capturing colors of different shades of us. One of the big problems we have here in Germany for the Black community is colorism.
Okay.
This is something in the UK we take for granted. My friend is, can we say mixed race? My friend is mixed race.
Michelle, can we say mixed race?
We can say mixed race.
Yeah, we can. So my friend is mixed race. My friend is this. Here is a big issue still. Colorism is a big issue. And in that aspect, you have somebody, for example, they're known as Afro-Germans. So you have Afro-Germans who've grown here with a white mum or dad and a black father.
Afro-Gems?
Afro-Germans. So,
sorry, I thought you meant like gems, like Gems.
No.
I was gonna say
historically, and don't quote me on this. So historically, some other members of the community, they parents, let's say a white woman may have married a Black person, and at that time the Black man would have been deported because that was seen as a taboo. And there's a really nice story of a good friend of mine who just reunited with his father after, say, about 30 years or so, because his father lived in Africa. And his mum, I can't really say his story on here if it's going to be going. It's such a powerful story in the sense of what's happened, that he educated me about the challenges of colorism, because for me, I was like,
how is that going to fit in?
You're Black no matter what, no matter what shades of color you are.
I've never heard of that terminology, Afro-German, but I've heard of Afro-American, African-American. That's what I normally hear, but I've never heard of the Afro-German. I don't think we have anything called Afro-British or Afro-English.
Well, no, we have Black British, but that's not
that's the one that you have.
Negative. It's not necessarily a negative term.
Yeah, it's not a negative connotation. I don't think I have a problem with my nieces being, called Black British. Do you know what I mean? But would I have a problem with them being called Afro something? Possibly.
I think that the way it turned around was that they wanted to keep an identity of their motherland. I'm wrong. I might be wrong.
They chose it. It wasn't like it was a negative connotation. Actually, it was something where they were able to claim and self-identify.
Exactly. And Afro-Germans, these are people of color that have a connection to their roots. And it's something that I've learned. I mean, for us, it gets shaded over in the UK. We are Black British. We are British. And for me, when I lived in the UK, I was so ingrained in the aspect, I'm British. Yeah. And when I came here, I was like, no, I'm not British. Yeah. I am African descent. I'm Ugandan.
Yeah.
Basically raised in Britain, but I'm not British.
Yeah.
But the generation that's grown there, we kind of forget. Americans more so, but we forget our identity. And there's a lot of things I've been discovering since I've been here. Yesterday, I went to see The Woman King. And I was like,
Michelle hasn't watched it yet. Don't spoil it for her.
Oh, one. It was just looking at the sense of Africa as a whole and looking at these powerful women who just showed what we're all about. Yeah. But anyway, I'm not going to ruin it for you.
A question mark about that, but we'll save that for another journey.
So on that point, because obviously this whole thing and this where we are is really what I'm hearing throughout this podcast is what you're setting up, especially with your shop, your e-commerce shop, and a lot of the things that you're doing, and even maybe some of the authors that we've had that have pulled in this Black History Month for us. It's really about educating the next generation to do better or do more or be in spaces where we hadn't been seen before. The reason why I bring that up right now, because I know Michelle hasn't seen The Woman King, The Woman King, but that tells a story that would have been lost in history. Does that make sense? Yeah, because I don't know how it's say it's based on a true story. I really enjoyed the film myself personally. I know people have conflicting views with accents in the film or the story that's being told. However, if something like that was accessible for young, I'm going to say it, young Black females or young, people of color or whatever you might be, wouldn't that just give you an upper hand and say, wow, my people did something? In that same space, when I'm looking at authors that are coming up and representing an area of people or a catalogue of people that haven't been well represented, are we not going the right way?
There's two concepts of what we got to put about for the kids of our future. It's about educating and empowering them. In the concept of empowerment, making them believe that nothing is impossible.
Yeah. And you know what, that what you've just said there, I feel like it kind of like flows into last week's one and the previous week's one. Interestingly enough, we've had a lot of writers come on about children's books. Now, I'm gonna, obviously Michelle's got kids and she tends, do you read to your kids, Michelle?
Every single night, like literally without fail. Like one of my kids, the 4-year-old, I can do minimum 2 books. The 1-year-old at the moment, literally on my life, it's like minimum 5 books before he falls asleep. But it's sometimes it's like 1 or 2 of the same books every night until I hide them. Obviously, we go to the library like once a month, so we switch it up. But I read to my kids every single night, either myself or my husband. But one of us definitely reads. Yeah.
That's really.
But no, I'm loving all of this because in terms of like what you just said, Shills, in terms of letting the children know for the future. I specifically remember my husband, who's white, going out and finding books. I've got an older daughter from a previous relationship who is fully Black, but my husband's in social care, but it was actually him when she was maybe about 3, 4 that got some books from his workplace. And it was like 100 influential Black women around the world. And I thought the book was amazing, but like what we said several times on the previous episodes, a lot of the women were American. So like Oprah Winfrey was there. There were people that did important things, that just maybe made the telephone or whatever it was. There were great inventors, people that went into space, all sorts, but none of them actually reflected what my daughter was as a Black, African, British female, you know? So I'm loving the fact that I'm seeing all of these new books that are up and coming. I'm not having to search for my mixed race boys. I'm not searching too hard. I live in a predominantly white area, but our local library has tons of books, really white, good. Asian, mixed race, which is great.
Okay. Actually, Michelle, you said a point that is important to talk about. It's about reflective identity in terms of the books that we have. So you're right that most of the people that we celebrate are of American background. Very few young youths that live in the UK would know that a Nigerian man actually owns Gatwick Airport.
Yes.
In that aspect.
I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that.
We don't talk about that.
That's why there's always delay there. Okay, I understand.
One of the most famous heart transplants is from Africa somewhere that's based in the UK. These things are not celebrated. I mean, we still in this pop culture and entertainment culture where we celebrate those of the American background, but there are so many role models on this side of the pond that we don't talk about within the books. And I hope that will be the next step forward, because there is always this divide. Yeah, we can celebrate. How many times can we celebrate this person? But how about who's closer? Who's more relatable to what we're going through? My parents are African. Can you give me somebody that's this? Cultural identity, celebrating culture. That's something that we need to also highlight as well. And some of the books I do educate kids around culture. In terms of, I've got a book about chicken in a kitchen. It celebrates about Nigerian Yam Festival.
Oh, wow.
I'm not Nigerian, I'm Ugandan, but I'm learning something I didn't know about Uganda. And I've got some Ugandan books that celebrate, subtle words, jaja, all these words that you can subtly teach.
Mum, grandma,
exactly.
I know that from
exactly.
You.
So subtle ways to get my daughter to understand my cultural identity. And my wife does the same, because my wife is from Thailand. Well, her origin is Thai. So we are raising a biracial child, such as yourself, Michelle. And in that aspect of raising a biracial child, we want them to incorporate both their identities in what we're bringing up, and embrace them. And that's the challenge. These are challenges that have been there before, where they have embraced one more than the other. But there should be something they could embrace and feel accepted of. My dad is white, my mom is Black. I love it because it makes me who I am.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you got any books that any books that represent? Can you show us something that you have? I think you had mentioned a book that caught our attention.
There was a book, but then Michelle made me think, no, let me give another book. So let me give you another book that's more connected to what we have.
Oh, Michelle, you ruined it. Is it because you talked about?
I didn't ruin it. I've enhanced.
No, she had a very valid point.
About the part of them being American.
Do you know what? The one we can talk about that we all know is connected to our culture. Should we call her American now? No, Suve.
Who?
So, Suve by Lupita Nyong'o.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Hey, wow.
Yay.
Oh, wow. We've got to get a picture of that properly so that we have that. Oh, wow.
Exactly. This book is one of my favorite reads to my daughter. Why? Because I had to explain subtly to my daughter the experiences I went through growing up, and how to embrace when these challenges come to her, how to accept who she is. So the story is of two sisters. One is darker and one is light. One is the sun. Sorry, one is day, one is night.
Yeah.
And the one that is dark isn't accepted, doesn't have the friends that the other one has. All these aspects that we grew up in. Oh, my friend's a little bit lighter, they're getting more friends. And it was a way for me to share my past with my daughter, and also to teach her that you've got to love who you are. no matter what people say, if you have a different size nose. So Suve is a very, very good book.
Do you know what? We're going to actually ask for a picture of that. So I've never heard of that book before.
Oh, it's our Black Panther Queen. She wrote that book.
Yeah, Michelle. But have you ever heard of it, Michelle? You know, sometimes Michelle.
I promise you, on my life, I've heard of it. I have. I've not read it, and that's more so because I've got boys. So that is not appropriate for Livs. So I've definitely heard of it. I promise you, I've heard of it.
I've never heard of it.
And maybe it became big after Black Panther. It became like, that's when it kind of popped, and I don't know when it was written anyway, but I know that it got a lot of attention. She grew. Peter grew from that role. So I've definitely heard of it, and I've heard what it's about. I just haven't read it because it's not relevant. It's a bit too young for Livs, and my boys are boys. So
I think it's actually a good book to take along. But so this is what you read.
Actually, it's good for all ages, Michelle. Like, take away the reading, look at the pictures. And, you know, the front picture in itself for a young 2-year-old, you've got a baby trying to reach out to the stars. So you definitely have a lot of pictures in there. And we all know she's of East African background, Lupita Nyong'o. It's a lot more the pictures that they're taking in. They're seeing bright and dark, and they're trying to understand what do they mean.
I feel like when I talk to people now, or when I have conversations with, because obviously we speak to a lot of people in terms of the work that we do, and sometimes you're always trying to find something that will help the person you're working with, and having this knowledge of there's books out there that can actually be used to explain to even children in classes what the differences are between us. And these differences are not negative, actually. They're all beautiful in their own way. I think having this month and I need to get the address to your e-commerce place, babe, because this Kidsimply is a place that people need to visit.
I'm going to give you an example of what you just said in terms of educating kids in schools. A year ago, my daughter came home and said to her mum, somebody in my school said this, they don't like the color of my skin, it's ugly. This is just the translated version. And a few days later, it took a while for my wife to tell me, because it definitely it was something very raw. And unfortunately, my daughter told me on the drive just to keep to nursery, we call it Kita here. And she told me, and as I got there, I saw the dad of the child. And my first reaction was, speak to the dad. So I said to him, look, I don't speak German, but you're going to have to understand what I'm saying. Your child said this. And his reaction, some people could see it as good, some people could see it as too much. He went into the nursery and pulled his daughter out and put her in front of us and was putting her as the focus of what did you say. Now, this was to me not something I wanted, because I think you then create a scenario that may destroy relationships. Kids they don't know this stuff so much, but the teacher was passing by and put us aside and said what's going on, explained it. The dad left and the teacher spoke to me and was like, yeah, but you know, she probably picked this up in the streets or something. And for me, I was like, no, in the streets you pick up other words. You don't pick these kind of things up in the streets. However, without going into too much detail, the way they dealt with it was great. They wanted to learn, but they didn't know how best to adapt and deal with a situation like this, because these situations happen, but you never hope it happens to you because you don't know how to deal with it. So we went in, I came back, me and my wife had a long chat, and we went in and we brought some books to read. There's a white author actually in the UK. She's American, but she's American-German, but she's married to a Jamaican. And she wrote this amazing book called Happy Within. And it's 2 languages. And we bought that book, and we bought some other books, and we bought these skin color pencils that we sell, because we don't believe in the normal conventional color pencils. Every child should be able to pick up a pencil that resembles their skin color and use that. So we had it and we brought that in. And rather than talk about anything related to color, we just celebrated being uniquely different. And we made them do some paintings, and we used it on our posters where we they put their hands in front of the skin color pencil, and we made it into a circle, and we used it as a front thing. A few weeks later, the teachers were like, that's the only colors that they pick when they come to do some coloring. There was we didn't want to make it about this happen. We just said, let's read a celebratory book, get them to do some coloring, the normal things that kids should be living. It's true, kids shouldn't be learning these things about separation or differences in colors. However, they should be accepting of each other's beauties, regardless of what they're taught away from that environment. So that's what we wanted to continue. And I think that's the overall goal that keeps us going, the good and the bad days, that the future shouldn't see, a barrier to who you are. It should be, okay, if I'm a girl, I can run faster than you. Just that doesn't matter if you're a boy and you got big ups or whatever. I'm the same strength as you. Equality.
I like that.
Sorry, Michelle.
It's so difficult because, I did something very similar. I've had a few incidents where my daughter was like, oh, I want straight hair, I want long blonde hair, I want blue eyes, or this or that, when she was a lot younger, and I had to go into the nursery. In the primary school, I did a talk with one of the mums to the year, just to celebrate Black history. We talked about Stormzy. I even talked about your beautiful bae, Sheila. Everybody got a mention because I wanted people to, someone that they can relate to, that they see. But it's interesting about the way the dad reacted to the comment that the child had made. And I remember, I don't normally post out of emotions. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a George Floyd. And I think I wrote on my Facebook to all my friends, how are you actively racist? How are you actively raising anti-racist children?
Yes, that was the George Floyd.
I think I put that up. Yeah. I don't think it went down too well because I think people felt a bit attacked. But for me, I had to be like, listen, it's not down on Black people, or it shouldn't be down on Black people to teach people how to accept us.
To be honest, that's such an interesting point you made. I had a podcast about that. Somebody asked me the question, is it our responsibility to change the narrative and teach people, or is it not? There's two parts of this, yes and no. There is those that have been closed-minded to what's been happening, and we can say through no choice of their own, or through a choice where they just refuse to see it. And we could say we have some friends that are like that. There's a subtle ignorance of what's going on. Oh, I didn't know you guys are going through this. Oh, there's no racism, whatever. However, in order for change to happen, we also have to make a move forward to self-educate through our experiences, through the challenges we've gone through portraying the uniquenesses that we have. We can't always expect change to come about by people self-educating themselves and doing that.
That's what it came down to. Yeah.
That is true.
We have to do two parts of this. I like to call the coin our allies, those who are willing
to. That's what Sheila's learned. Sheila learned that. I taught Sheila that.
Yeah. The allies are always going to want to learn more, and in their progress learning, they may say things that they're afraid of saying. Here in Germany, people are very direct, but I like directness because then
you know where you stand.
Words. I know where I'm standing, but they ask me questions. So what do I call a Black person? Is Black even bad? It's ignorance.
Yeah. But I'm not even, do you know what it is? I don't even say that's ignorance, because didn't one of you ask, is mixed race okay?
Yeah, I asked,
I asked as well.
And I don't think that's so, why is it ignorance if a white person were to ask, as long as it's not like, you're not asking me about the N-word, because everybody should know the N-word is not okay. But, I didn't know until I was in my early teens, there's a word half-caste.
Yeah.
That's not used anymore. Whereas when I was growing up, half-caste was just what we called our mixed race friends. And I didn't know it had a negative connotation. I just didn't know. It wasn't until my mid-20s someone said, oh no, we don't use that anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And I've stopped using it.
It's the political agenda behind words that people choose to say. So for example, the reason I say is mixed race okay is in the UK, the political platform always changes in the sense of what's right and what's wrong. And the current debate going around now is the pronouns, and people are not understanding more what the
Sheila, turn off your camera for this.
But
this pronouns thing, just letting people know we're going to discuss it on Coffee Morning Laughter, because I have a lot to say about this subject.
But no, the pronouns is something for us we accept. We have books that are around accepting and different type of genders or people's aspects of it. Because if you talk about inclusivity, you can't just say inclusivity is a closed gap. What is inclusivity? Because if you're saying you're inclusive,
you have to be.
You've got all aspect, disability, race, everything. It's not just about color. So for us, I
don't like it when people compare struggles. I'm inclusive, but don't compare our struggle to your struggle.
I think that's
struggle is a struggle. Your struggle is your struggle.
That's always the same thing. It's in a sense, if we've all had loss, and when somebody says, "Oh, I know how it's like," but however, the concept is, let's start somewhere. So you think you know, it's like, this is what I've been through. Can you tell me if yours is similar? When you talked about the George Floyd thing, there was a lot of negative energy going on in the UK when the statues were being taken down. And people that I thought were friends were saying things that I was very shocked about and thinking, okay, so you think you came and saved us from the West Indies or Africa by bringing us here? Well, actually the story's the other way around. We came to build the country after the war, the West Indies, and so on. And my response on social media at the time was I didn't say anything at the point, because I think sometimes words get misskewed and somebody can't see, they can make more hate on that. All I did was give an experience. You know, Sheila can say how it is in Barking in Essex and so on. There's been places I've been in those areas and somebody's come at me with a trainer and say, is that your brother, that piece of shit on that trainer? Do you get what I mean? Excuse my language. But experiences make people realize, actually, oh, I didn't know that, to the point that, okay, is it right that you can go to a foreign country and see on a park, no dogs, no ends, no this? I'm not going to say the full connotations of it. But you get what I mean. And this is only 5-10 years ago. So you're right, Michelle. People can't do comparisons, but we can talk about our experiences and say, your situation, well, this is what I go through. You tell me if there's something that's similar to that I can't get a job even though I'm overqualified because of the way I look. Has that happened?
To come back to this one, we need to come back to this one. I'm hearing a lot of points being made, and you know, I feel like I'm on question time right now.
I can see Michelle's got 100.
I don't even feel like I'm on CML anymore here. I feel like I'm on question time, and I need to kind of like manage this conversation because I can see Michelle's head is there popping. That brain's about to fall out. Like I have a lot to say.
Just when it gets there, just bring it down.
We need to close off the podcast, but do you know what? There's a lot of conversations that are happening right now within this podcast, and I think our listeners this week are going to have a lot of food for thought, because we've kind of like been through a journey of how do we educate our kids and what are we doing for our generation, so that they're inspired by the material that is being put out there. Now, you know, Peter kindly joined the podcast to let us know that he's got a space and a place where different books and different objects can be picked up for unique differences, people with unique differences. You can find yourself, I think everybody can find themselves within Kidsimply. There's something there that represents
something for everybody.
I like that line.
You like that line? That's all right, I'll give it to you, we can coin it together. And it's like, if you've been listening to anything that's been spoken about within, you know, this podcast, check out Kidsimply, because I think there'll be things for you there. And if you have children around you that you're trying to inspire, log on. There's a lot of books that he didn't talk about, but what we will do is over the week we will share these books so that you can link on, buy them, and there's actually toys as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
play objects, dolls. Yeah.
And you know what I loved? Yeah, what I really, 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 really loved was the colors, that all shades of colors, because that's such the colouring pencils, because that's such a nice way to educate children about themselves and people around them and the world around them as well. Because do you know what? Yeah, I'm not that shade of brown or that black that's in that crayon that I used to play with at school. Because well and truly, this is not my colour.
You're right. You know, two things I'm going to leave you ladies with. I asked my daughter the other day is, how do you define black? And this is what she hears and sees. Black is this, black is that. And I said, when you look at me, what do you see? And she said, you're brown, Daddy. You're brown like me. And kids, for them, when you try to tell them you're black, they're like, no. Like you just lifted that. This is black for them. This is black. And they kind of thinking to myself, no, but you're brown. So why are they calling you black or whatever? And that's a very key point that we need to remind ourselves with. You know, we were given this term, you're black. And that's what you are. And you all fall under this umbrella. You're black. But there's different shades of us.
Yeah.
There's different
My
shades
son
of
refers
brown.
to himself as golden. He's mixed race. He says, I'm like, oh, like what colour are you? What colour's mummy? Daddy's white. Daddy's peach. And I think he's white because he's pale. Mummy's brown and he's golden as a mixed race child. And for now, he's 4 years old. I'm not even trying to change that. For now, I'm like,
I don't think you need to change that. You don't need to change that. You know what? The world will ruin the kids for use, but for as long as we can keep the innocence of our kids, let's keep it for as long as we can, and let's actually let them be embraced in this awesomeness of who they are. Because when they get out to this real world, it's going to be teaching them different things. But let their foundation be set. Yeah. We have to.
One last thing.
We've got even less than 10 minutes on this one.
One last thing.
It's really question time. Yeah.
You two are creating a time capsule that's going to be a game changer. So when people do look at role models, you are already creating the changing platform by discussing sometimes difficult topics, sometimes topics we need to learn. So the role models that kids should look at should be you sitting here, giving up your time, so away from books and away from knowledge, our role models are the people that are making the change now, and you two have to be appreciated for that. So when your community does look at this, they have to remind themselves that these are people who are dedicating time out of their life to have uncomfortable discussions or game-changing discussions of how and what do we need to do to make a change in this world.
You know what?
You are there, you're doing it already.
Wow. I can't even say anything. It's not like me to be lost for words, but I can't say anything. I think
I'll leave you that, guys. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, Peter. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can have you back to discuss some of the other topics that we didn't get into on this particular podcast. And I'm sure you have a lot to say. I think we should definitely try and do another one. And we'll try and do another one. There's a lot to unpick with you. And I actually want to know what it's like living in a different culture, like that culture change, because we've always spoken about coming from one place to another in terms of, from Africa to UK. But what's it really like going somewhere else where you thought you had settled and now you're not settled and having to adapt to a new life? But for this week's podcast, guys, this is it. This is CML. Michelle, closing words?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing. Definitely go and check out Kidsimply.
Kidsimply. Check it out.
Yeah, please do go check it out. And thank you as well, Peter, you and your partner, your wife, for all that you're doing as well. And go German Black Dads. Black German dads?
Black Dads Germany. Check
Black
that out.
Dads Germany. I get them in the end. It takes me a bit of
Yeah,
time.
do you know what? Yeah, what we might
Yeah.
have to do is we might have to bring them back on for Father's Day to talk about some of the pieces of work that they've done out there, because I think it's really important to acknowledge these things and to inspire other people around us. On that note, we're gonna ride out, and guys, keep reading, and you're gonna see a couple of videos of Peter reading to his daughter floating
Oh,
around, yeah,
No.
because he actually does this. He actually does this, yeah. So guys, keep reading, be inspired. If you're looking for a book for your child to be inspired by, simply visit Kidsimply. Simply visit Kidsimply. Imagine, yeah. Like I said,
I like that one as well.
yeah, like I said before, there's something there for everybody. What I've learned, what I'm taking away from this particular podcast is black faces in white spaces. I'm
be
gonna
the
write a
change
book.
you want to see. Yeah, be the change you want to see.
I'm gonna write a book. I'm inspired. I'm gonna write a
It's
book,
coming.
and I want it to
I'll buy
be.
it.
I want it to be child friendly, and I write adult book as well. So I'm inspired. Thank you so much, guys. Coffee Morning Laughter on every platform. Like, share, subscribe. You know what to do.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye. I am gonna stop recording.
Oh my God, is that the time?